All right, I want to welcome to the program Jakub Buyen's BlazeTV contributor and also host of The Bottom Line, along with his first time on the program, Jeremy Carl. He is a senior fellow at the Claremont Institute, also the author of The Unprotected Class, which I am in the middle of reading, How Anti-White Racism is Tearing America Apart, a book that is so needed at this time. It's so true. It's funny, actually, I'll tell you, Jeremy, really quickly. I had, because I'm not all the way through your book, but I have been navigating through it, and I had it on the counter, and my husband said, "Oh wow, our babysitter was there. Our babysitter is like super based because she's reading that. I saw this book that was out on the counter, and I was like, that's mine. Sorry."
Yeah. If only.
That's good. I'll have to use that in future marketing materials.
Yeah,
for
like,
sure.
Find a babysitter.
I mean, I can let her borrow it when I'm done with it and see what she thinks about it. She may care too, but I appreciate you joining us today along for the ride here. And I want to talk more about your book here in a little bit, but I want to start here with the jury is about to go into deliberation for this Stormy Daniels hush money trial case. And I only call it that so that people understand, because there are so many cases going on. It is, of course, not technically a hush money case. The money that was paid, first of all, still hasn't been proven to be tied to Trump. But second of all, was not an illegal payment in and of itself. So I want to make that clear. But I want to play first. This morning, the Biden campaign thought that it would be a good idea to stage a press conference outside of the courtroom where the closing arguments were set to begin earlier this morning. And they brought in Robert De Niro, which I don't know why I'm supposed to care about what Robert De Niro has to say about this case. They brought in two former Capitol Police officers from, January 6th, Harry Dunn, who, by the way, is a known perjurer and ran a failed congressional campaign in Maryland, and Michael Fanone. And I want to play some of this. So I'm going to play a little. Here's some of the highlights or lowlights, as it were, of Robert De Niro and Harry Dunn, and then, of course, one of the campaign spokesmen for Joe Biden. Watch.
Under Trump, this kind of government will perish from the earth. I don't mean to scare you.
Yes, you do.
Maybe I do mean to scare you. If Trump returns to the White House, you can kiss these freedoms goodbye that we all take for granted.
Oh.
And elections, forget about it.
Right.
That's over. That's done. If he gets in, I can tell you right now, he will never leave. He will never leave. You know that.
Do we?
He will never leave. And that's why I've joined the Biden-Harris campaign, because the only way to preserve our freedoms and hold on to our humanity is to vote for Joe Biden for president.
Props to the car alarm.
We don't have a choice.
The fight for a lot of us didn't end on January 6th, that evening when we went home. The fight still continues now. What happened that day
You're a liar.
was an attempt to overthrow an election.
You are a liar.
Donald Trump is the greatest threat to our democracy and the safety of communities across the country today. He has encouraged and continued to encourage political violence.
That's a lie.
We've been called traitors just today. We were all called traitors on January 6th for doing our job. And yes, we protected Republicans. We protected Democrats alike. It's not about the story that we don't agree with. Political violence is never acceptable. But you have a presidential candidate. You have a presidential candidate that champions it, that encourages it,
Joe Biden?
that supports it. We cannot have that.
First of all, let me say this first and foremost. We're not here today because of what's going on over there. We're here today because you all are here.
You guys hear him being
and so we are proud. We are glad that you're all here this morning. We're here primarily because of the threat that Donald Trump poses to the United States of America and to our democracy.
But it's not about what's going on over there.
Right. It's about the threat that Donald Trump poses to our democracy. But don't worry, the 91 indictments, definitely not to prevent him from becoming president again or to prevent him from campaigning, right? It's just that we just keep hearing that he's this threat to democracy and we can't have Donald Trump. Well, what about justice in this case? It almost seems like no one on the left even cares about that.
Do you see Robert or Bob De Niro on The View just get his hat handed to him?
No.
Didn't know what to say by someone of Middle Eastern descent, who said, "You're a failed actor. You're a washed-up actor. Why should we listen to you? What do you know about politics?"
Oh, I love that.
No, it was beautiful. Look, what a joke. Of course they'll pull Robert De Niro. It's the true deplorables that'll stand there. And that press conference was about as dismal as a Joe Biden campaign trail. Remember when in COVID we had, was it Kia? The cars they sat in, they were flashing the lights because there was nobody, like at a movie theater.
Oh, yeah.
Remember that whole scene?
Yeah.
Look, this is serious. They say things, but they mean what they say. When he says he'll never leave the White House, he was there and he left.
Right.
And there's an end to all of our lives. So at some point he'll leave.
That'd be great.
So these grandiose terms, he'll never leave. It's scare tactics, and unfortunately, some Americans buy it. But I think this time around, David Harris Jr. just tweeted something out, and he said, if they jail Trump, or maybe it's DC Drano and David Harris retweeted it. If they jail Trump, it's a landslide victory more than what we saw with Reagan. Every time they double down on this guy, actually works in his favor.
Yeah, I think the Democrats are kind of high on their own supply here. It's sort of interesting to kind of watch what's going on, and I just don't think that this is resonating with the average American. Right. And it feels extreme. It looks extreme. It is extreme. It is extreme. And Robert De Niro has been around. I mean, he's the sort of person who's nobody under 40 knows who Robert De Niro is, for better or worse. And it's just they're really desperate, and nobody's having that reality conversation with them that they got to, pull back. It's not working.
Yeah, the first thing I thought when I watched the Robert De Niro press conference was I was like, there are 0 people alive that were like, I was on the fence about voting for Joe Biden, and then I heard that Robert De Niro told me to, and now I'm definitely voting for Joe Biden. Like, that happened to literally 0 people. Nobody had that reaction, especially when they use all of these, hyperbolic terms. Yeah. And I can't help but also think, he talked about, there will never be another election again. Hold on. Are we against pausing elections in a country because Ukraine just did that? And that's okay for Zelensky to do, and we can just funnel him all of our money. But now all of a sudden they want to take a hard stand against that. Now, again, I'm not saying that would be great. I'm just saying let's have some objectivity here. Let's have a standard and hold ourselves and others to that same standard. They can't do it because, again, of course, it's not about any ideals or morals or anything with them. It's just the ends justifies the means. So I want to bring up one more point in this. As we talk about this trial and as we talk about all of the hoops that these prosecutors have to jump through in order to try to say that there was a felony committed, in order to go against the statute of limitations for the misdemeanor that they claim was committed, right? There are all of these hoops that they had to jump through. Remember, the FEC didn't want to take up the case. The DOJ didn't want to take up the case. You think that they raided Mar-a-Lago. You think that they wouldn't have been chomping at the bit to take up a case if they thought that they could actually get a conviction? They didn't take the case. So remember, New York City was able to twist and turn this into a felony because they say that there is a second crime there, right? Like there has to be a predicate crime to find Trump guilty of the felony charges. And so they elevated the 34 counts of falsifying business records from misdemeanors to felonies by saying, well, there was a second crime that was committed. Well, here's what the judge ruled today. The prosecutors suggested 4 possible predicate crimes, and there were a couple, I think at least one that was ruled out before the trial. So they had tax crimes and violations of federal or state election law, but they never zeroed in on which one they specifically allege that Donald Trump committed. The judge ruled that the jury does not have to agree on the specific second crime in order to find Trump guilty on this trial.
Yeah, now we're just going to throw jury law, jury governance. Everything is thrown out. If you want to know how you break a country, you vote for Joe Biden. That's how you break a country. Look, please check me on this, but it is reported that Secret Service, Donald Trump's Secret Service, had met with the jail and the system to prepare potentially. And I think that's due diligence, and that's their job. Too. Yeah. It's due diligence. I don't think that signals some sort of an outcome. So I just want people to know, don't just assume that means Donald Trump is being jailed. That's just due diligence by Secret Service because they do not want to be caught by surprise. But that does tell you that they do expect the Biden administration to absolutely abandon the Constitution of the United States at all costs, run a banana republic, and jail your opponent.
Yeah. I mean, it's just absurd, Jeremy. Like, they didn't prove or show evidence of any of these, alleged second crimes. And then the jury doesn't even have to say, okay, we're focusing in on this one. It could just be like, well, they can just, I don't know, play pin the tail on the donkey and point. And if they're closest to it, they win a prize. Like, it's absurd to me that you would think, going back to our original commentary on this, you would think that the average American understand, like, they can see this, right? I mean, it's so absurd. Surely someone who, I'm not a lawyer, I'm not well-versed in law, but even I can look at this and go, this is total bullshit. Sorry.
Yeah, I mean, I think the facts, it sort of amuses me to see a lot of the coverage, even on our side, as if the facts and law really matter here.
Right.
I don't think they do at all.
No.
I think the whole thing was absurd from moment one. And again, even if you didn't like Donald Trump, I think it was absurd from moment one. And it's just a question of whether there was like a Trump supporter or at least a Trump agnostic person who somehow got on that jury. That's going to be the only thing that determines. If that jury is all Biden voters, which is totally plausible in New York, we're going to get a guilty verdict, and the facts and logic and evidence have no.
But to the point, we discussed this last week quite a bit. All we need is one juror, right?
Yeah.
One.
Yeah.
But if the jury doesn't have to agree,
Right.
Yeah.
They don't even have to
agree
on the
matter?
second crime.
Yeah.
what does it matter if we have a juror, 2, 3 jurors that go, you know what? And you're seeing this judge oversight, overreach of judges across this country.
Yeah.
Governor of a state signs a mandate and signs a declaration. A judge goes, you know what? Abolishing, drag shows for kids. Mm-hmm. Judge goes, First Amendment violation. I'm overruling the governor. Just unilaterally. So you see judges with gross overreach when it is a jury trial. That's super concerning for our country, for the state of the nation, for the rule of law. I mean, it's like it's the rule of law is now as fluid as their alphabet gender identification.
I mean, it really does seem to be because, you think about the mantra innocent until proven guilty. How can you possibly say that that is the case here when they have not proven any sort of guilt for, I would argue, the misdemeanors. But if you want to, let's just set that one aside. They have not even argued, they have not proven guilt of a second crime. The jury is just supposed to guess and check. Like, that is so counterintuitive to how this country was founded. The judicial system supposed to be, a checks and balances type thing. And now it's not at all. It's just activism from the bench. It's just so worrisome to see playing out. And I will say this to your point, Yaku. The only reason that I have a little bit of hope with the jurors in this, it's not that I think that any of them are Trump supporters at all. I don't. But I also don't think that CNN or MSNBC are fond of Trump. And I think that they would love to be bad-mouthing him every chance that they get. And we have seen way too many clips of those commentators just railing against the prosecution for doing such a piss poor job, railing against their star witness, Michael Cohen, for being, just completely not credible. And so I keep thinking, if even CNN and MSNBC can muster the strength to say this is a BS case, maybe there's hope for at least 1 or 2 jurors.
Yeah.
Maybe we'll see. All right, one more thing here that I want to bring up in regard to Donald Trump. Get your thoughts on this, gentlemen. So apparently, Donald Trump earlier this month promised donors that he would, in regard to all of the anti-Israel encampments that are popping up across the country at these universities. He said, one thing I do, any student that protests, I throw them out of the country. There are a lot of, so he meant the foreign students. There are a lot of foreign students. As soon as they hear that, they're going to behave. So he says if these are foreign students who are here on some sort of, student visa, that he's just going to ship them back. I say, great. Let's get to
all within his right. The F1 visa is the student visa. Mm-hmm. That F1 visa has very strict stipulations. I mean, they can't work. By the way, all that is gone. They do whatever they want to do under CBP1 and Joe Biden. But the F1 visa, according to the immigration law, which passed the Congress, right? He's got all the right. If there's so many violations happening at the moment by these students that it's not even a stretch.
Yeah.
It's just going to make the law applicable. And by the way, the actual law.
Right.
Not this quasi-law that they want to apply to him.
Right.
The law says if you do XYZ as an F1 student visa holder, you're out.
Jeremy.
Yeah, I mean, that's fine. Like, it's great. I mean, obviously, these student protesters are idiots at best, and I don't like them. I think, for me, like, with all the Middle East stuff, and maybe it's just because I'm off in the middle of nowhere in Montana, but, like, I resent having to talk about it so much because it's like our border's wide open.
Yes,
We've got fentanyl. We've got all these, like, problems. I'm sympathetic with where the Israelis are, but it's just not in my top 50 issues that I'm concerned about.
Yeah.
And I'm frustrated that every day when I turn on the TV, like, I'm forced to, like, have a really strong opinion about it.
Yeah, I agree with you there. If you like this clip and you want to see the full episode, click here. And if you want to subscribe to the channel, come on, you know you do. Click here.